So, hi, my name is Sophie, and I'm a senior software developer, and I happen to like building women in tech community. Now, I'm gonna start with a little secret. Whoops. Some slide and I'll show. Okay, it's fine. It was an accident. So what I mean by that is like when back then and even now, I did not, in my mind, in my front mind, I didn't think of, I want to start a women in tech community. My goal is to gather all these people and do all these things. No. That was not the case, you know? So I'm just going to talk, what I'm going to talk about for the next 30 minutes, like who was I in around 2017 for like so many years ago. Sounds like a lot, but you know. And then what am I doing today, more specifically for the past 2 years, roughly? Women in tech and community, why, how are they related together? And then we'll take a step back, look at a bigger glance of why beyond diversity. Next will be some tips. The tips are based on my personal anecdotes to the things I observed throughout the years. So any new tips, welcome. I think I just want to share some thoughts that I have in my mind. And we'll finish with some final thought. Oh, okay, that's where the slide was. It was an accident. So again, I'm going to paint you a picture of who I was in 2017. I was very junior in many ways. Like, my technical skills weren't there. I was very socially awkward because socially construct is so weird. But I was very happy that I landed on a 9-to-5 job. You know, that first feeling, I finally have a job security. It's like, yes, let's go. But internally, I was like, oh crap, I hope I don't step on anyone's toes. I just want to observe from afar. Don't look at me, please don't. But I was very curious. Like, I want to be a good team player. I want to show like I deserve to be there, right? And next slide, okay. So here I was in 2017, new job, new hopes, and I was quite excited. I was very lucky. One of my teammates, she welcomed me with open arms. And because we're teammates, right, she became my go-to wife, work wife. She became my work BFF. I honestly, like, naturally, I ask her questions about my tasks. And we start sharing about personal lives too. You know, love life is a little tricky. Well, how come the 90s were such a fun time to what TV shows we were watching? Things like this. We naturally became those people. And she was very special to me because she happened to be a English lead the leading person for a ladies learning code. I don't think that exists anymore. I think it's under Canada Learning Code. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but she was the lead, and she just asked me a couple of times, like, hey, do you want to volunteer? And I'm like, huh? What do you mean? So what they do, Ladies Learning Code, they offer free or very cheap, it's been years, so correct me, but I think it was very affordable, multiple variety of classes that people can just sign up and learn about technology. The subjects are vast, and I participated in Introduction to CSS, Java, and HTML, something like this. That was one of my first volunteer, and what was eye-opening is I saw a variety of women of different age and different background. You know, I think it was very cool. It was really eye-opening. They're just willing to learn, and it's cool that we create this safe space for them to just, you know, join and see where it goes. Another event that I volunteered was I think it was Introduction to Python. I happened to be a volunteer, and another colleague, she recruited another one to be the teacher. It's all volunteer for most of us, so I think, again, very cool to see different people who wanted to learn. But I was also very, sorry, I heard things. I was very lucky. Because of her, she get invited to all these events, and I never thought in my life that I would go through a woman in tech dinner hosted by the founder of Glossier. I don't know if you know Glossier, but it's a very popular skincare brand. It's in Sephora. It's very peak millennial. And I'm not sponsored, by the way, but Glossier, you look at me like, hello. I do like your product. But it was very cool. It was the first time I went to this very public, not like from the company, just say dinner with a bunch of people that not only software developers, but I met a PM, I met the designer, I just met a variety of people, and the food was delicious, let's be real. But also internally, I happened to be helping the product and tech team. So what happened was, like, my then VP of product, she just told me, I don't know how, but she casually just mentioned, like, oh, I love hosting brunch. I do this with my product team. And I was like, how come we don't have that? And they do have a product and tech quarterly meeting for, I imagine, like, goal settings, whatever you want to call it. And she asked me, like, hey, do you want to help out? I'm like, sure. It's just said to people, like, hey, it's a potluck, bring whatever. And it's one of the best spread I ever have in my life. It was, like, very spread out. And I think it's a good opportunity because, one, you start with a happy stomach. People will start, like, just, talking. And then we start the meeting on the right foot. At least that's my experience. But, okay, so, the numbers got cut off. But anyways, if you notice, those are the pictures I take a woman tech maker in 2000. I believe the year was 17, 18, something like that. It was cut off. That's unfortunate. But I just want to say I attended this event many years ago, a few times. And, it's because of, again, this woman that I work with. She's like, hey, I know about this event. Do you want to go? I'm like, okay, even though it's a Saturday. But, it was fun. Ultimately, it was very, very eye-opening, very inspiring, and I'm here again this year. Thank you. But I want to say that I think every chapter of your life, you will discover things that you love or what you don't like, or you start reflecting, right? What I was back then is I love my work-life balance. I like a 9 to 5 because I like to clock out. I happen to love working with the right people. And what I mean by that, because by working a full-time job, I see them more than my family. I see them more than my partner. So why not have this atmosphere that's, like, enjoyable? And you want to work with the right people, right? You want to work with people that not only smart, but nice, genuine, or else it just sucks. Like, you will burn out very fast. And opportunities to grow, that's just normal when you're a little junior. And also work culture, if it resonates. I think it's different for company to company, but that's how I felt. But what I learned is, like, man, I should have fight for my salary. I should have worked for my worth. So many things that I think many people have experienced. Listen to my gut. I definitely had feelings where, like, that doesn't sound right. But I ignored it and just, like, kind of just continue with life. And if you can, and if you have this work BFF, you kind of want to talk about the red flags you've been seeing. I put red flags in quote because it could be pink flags. It could just be a flag with a question mark, because a lot of times you're like, did you encounter this as well? Like, how did you solve this problem? Things like this. And this is where conversation gets started. But then, I think I did not copy the slides from earlier, but, like, 2020 happened. And, like, many of you, or maybe some of you, I don't know, hope everybody, but for me, like many others, I lost my job. There's many reasons. It wasn't just me. It was a bunch of people of my job. I think COVID was a catalyst, if anything. But I was not that sad. I was sad, but not like, oh my God, I'm so, like, I cannot get out of bed. No. I recovered, and I was just like, it was a clear sign that I was ready to move on. I was ready to move on, and I think 2020 was a reflection for many things, but my reflection was what kind of company I want to work for. And the more I think about it, the more I discover I think I call myself a product-driven dev. What I mean by that, I like to build products, but I like to know why I'm building it, why the features we're building. And as cheesy as it sounds, I want to build for product that makes the world a better place, because 2020 was such a scary time. And there were a few companies that I had my eye out for. One of them, I saw an old colleague was working there. Like she was working the previous one, but she already left a while back. So I reached out to her like, hey girl, do you like your job? And she said yes. And I trust her word than a lot of the Glassdoor reviews. I'm not saying Glassdoor is not good, but it is a good resource. But when you have someone inside and they're like, yeah, I like it, I think that just helps you to think about, to really apply for the job. But in addition to because I know her so well based on past events. We went to a lot of 5 à 7. We talk about things. I know that if something is wrong in the job, such as toxic masculinity, to my pay is unfair or whatnot, she'll tell me right out of the gate. Then I could have avoided this. But she did not. She genuinely enjoyed it, and I applied, and through many, many rounds of interviews, I got in. But, 2020, year of so many Zoom meetings, but I was kind of happy, and what I meant by that is I think the team and people around there collectively try to be creative in terms of how to team build, how to make the work suck less lack of a better word. I receive treats, like everybody Uber Eats treats to people. Like, oh, it's your birthday, and then suddenly someone rings your door, it's like, hey, you have donuts. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. I wore masks everywhere, to so many Zoom meetings. The Zoom fatigue was very, very real. But I noticed, and with time, yes, my technical skills got better. I think that's just natural if you're in the right path. And I was involved in the hiring pipeline. What I mean by this is, like, if you are applying to Dialogue, and you might see me in the interview. But what I realized, because I have insight in the pipeline, I see there were little to no women in my team. Was I surprised? No. Was I sad? Yeah. And it just spiraled these thoughts in my head. I was like, where the hell are you? I know that there are less women than men applying, and there's just less in general, but to the point there's nobody. I was like, something is, either it's wrong, or are we trying? Is there something that we could do to change this? So what I did was, I asked in a public forum, public Slack channel. It's about tech hiring, so it was an innocent question. But the question what I asked was hey, can you share with me what's the ratio of men versus women versus non-binary people applying to our job postings? I want to see, give me an answer. I just want to know what's going on. The conversation, I'm not going to read the whole thing. But there's a conversation happening. Multiple various people answered. They were transparent. One of them, I say, honestly, not much in my team, to, hey, have we considered, instead of hiring for a senior position, to hire juniors or internship opportunities, because that's where we can foster other talents. Then the HR person actually posts the stats for me. So I noticed who were my allies, and I knew that I have someone that I could talk to in case of anything. If anything, I just started a conversation and see where it goes. Then coincidentally, I was like, okay, yeah, thank you for sharing. I hope that ratio improve. That was my conclusion. And then they're like, yeah, Sophie, I agree. Do you have ideas? I'm like, do I? And I listed a few. The biggest one, so the top 2 that I remember, I was like, have you tried to find local active woman in tech group and just try to spam job posting? To be fair, very hard to find. I did find a group, but they're not active, or maybe I don't know how to search. Let me know. 2, have we think of sponsoring events like this? Because I went to this event many years ago, a few times, and I was like, I thought of it, and I was like, have we ever thought of sponsoring? All these ideas came out because there's a famous quote from Albert Einstein. I don't know word by word, but essentially, if we try the same thing over and over again but expect different result, that's not going to happen. My theory was the hiring people, the HR people are probably the same people or very similar background, and they probably have not tried anything different than posting on LinkedIn or Indeed or whatever web search they're doing. So my theory was can we try something different, see what can happen? And then someone from HR saw my message. Nothing wrong. The HR person was good. She just reached out to me and asked hey, next year we're planning this D&I group for this subgroup, and it's hey, do you want to help us amp up the product and tech diversity view? And I was like, yes. I think it was just the right time, parce que j'étais en feu, I was already in the momentum. And what I did, we tried to research and find local group to apply job postings. Very difficult, again. But we're sponsoring last year. We were one of the sponsors, not the big ones, but we tried to do something. It wasn't only this event, there were others that we found in Montreal, and through these actions, we hired a PM that's currently still working for us today. So, and we're also sponsoring this year, so. So looking back, why and how women in tech communities, why is this so important? It's because the challenges that we faced back then, that I faced back then, is still the same today. Lack of representation, leadership goals, and leadership roles. What I mean is, like, if you look at your managers or the C-suite, are there a lot of women to minority folks? Generally, no. I remember we were applying, like, people were looking for another VP, and the ratio was very, very skewed. It was just not great. It still is the case today. To our pay gaps, still the problem back then, it still is today. To hiring biases, how do we make sure that more women apply, they don't feel intimidated? There's I know when a woman sees a job posting, it's 70% fit the bill, but she will not apply because it doesn't fit 100%. Don't do that. Still apply, but they don't. Likely they don't. Compared to a man when they see the same thing. Oh, I fit 70%. Yeah, I'm going to apply. How do we encourage, how do we teach more people to apply? And can we do something about it? Oops, I'm going to go back quickly. Overcoming biases, what I mean is, it's what we're doing today. I'm sharing my personal anecdote to hopefully share more stories, to know how we can get over, to encourage people to, just share stories, right? Because we know more and more women with different stories, how they overcome these biases, challenges. I'm going to talk a little bit about systemic challenges, because whether we like it or not, whether you're an expert on the subject or not, AI is everywhere. It was quite a popular subject back then in the university when I was in school to right now. It's no matter what, AI is very shoved to your face, products here's how do you make it be productive. Here's how you can optimize your this. Whether you like it or not, whether you're an expert or not, it is here. It's going to be, again, in the future. The issue that was happening in 2018, Amazon AI created this recruiting tool using AI. The thing is, it was gendered against women. What happened is they gathered, I believe, 10 years of data, where most of the 10 years, it was men. So the result of this tool was the moment they see the word woman in the resume, I'm a woman in chess club, I lead the woman in tech blog, they will just flag your CV. That's not great. That's not what we want to do. Thankfully, they dropped the tool. But this example highlights that if AI use biased data, they will just amplify existing gender problems instead of getting rid of them. And this is very scary when you think about it, right? We want to make sure that we use tech for good, lack of a better word. So I'm going to talk very briefly about beyond diversity. What I mean is why representation alone isn't enough, and why we need to build an environment where women can thrive. The reality is, we heard diversity and inclusion together. That's the key word a lot of times, but diversity does not include inclusion. Diversity does not guarantee inclusion. What I mean by that, if a company say hey, I'm celebrating this metric, I managed to hire X amount of women in the pipeline. It's good, don't get me wrong. But it doesn't guarantee the workplace is a welcoming environment, that is a nurturing environment. It's not necessarily an empowering environment. If that's the case, if that's the case, then inclusion isn't there. We need to make sure that inclusion is there, because it creates a safe space where women can thrive, feel empowered, they have voices, they can speak up. And it's about psychological safety, right? Because we want to make sure that we can say our ideas without fearing the backlash, without feeling embarrassed. We have so many reasons why we are built this way, and it's let's just try to break that down. But what happened, an example is Apple is such a very powerful company. We all know that. I'm sure half of you have iOS. So what happened, I think it was 2018, I don't remember when HealthTrack was out. I'm an Android girly, I'm sorry, I don't remember. But the first launch is they launch the HealthTrack, but no period tracking, which was kind of disappointing. The lesson is here is like, for example, if you're in a product roadmap, if you exclude women users or women they fear of talking, this can happen, which is like such a missed opportunity right here. And there's like a famous kind of funny quote like, Steve Jobs didn't have a period, so HealthKit doesn't need a period tracker. Not great, but I think it's something that we could avoid. So I'm gonna talk very fast about the tips that I gathered. First thing is like, anyone can do it. Anyone can start community. You don't have to wait for C-suite, manager. I am not one. I'm not a manager, I'm not a C-suite, not because I don't want to. Well, no, because I don't want to. Simply as that. But anyone can do it. Don't wait for them. You can do it. Second is, I create a private group for women in tech and product, or maybe other department that you work closely with. What I changed, a few things. So I spell woman, W-O-M-X-N, to include the trans women, the non-binary folks, if they want to join, you know. And to be honest, I started that group because I wanted to organize brunch. I did not, again, it's kind of going back to the accident. I did not like, I want to start a community. I want to make sure everyone's included. No. That was not my intention. Like, yes, but that wasn't my first catalyst. What happened was like, we were working hard. We were probably very hungry. And I was like, oh my God, I crave Korean barbecue. Me too. Do you want to go next week? Yeah. And like, you know, it wasn't the whole group, but it's like 4 people at most maybe. And we ate, and naturally we talk about work because I went out with colleagues, and we start talking about like our job. It's natural, but we talk like, I can't believe this goal is so much harder. Have you encountered this at your team, like very specific technical things to soft things? And at least for one night, we create a safe space to talk about it. And every time we do so, I hear so much feedback. Oh my God, so much fun. Let's do it again. Like, that's a recurrent feedback I get. So at some point I was like, I want to have brunch. Let's do a big group thing. Well, you know, and the easiest way was create a private Slack group. So that's how it happened. I was like, hey, who want to have brunch? And let's get started. And again, this kind of highlights I started small. You know, you don't have to start this big official group. That's not the goal. The goal was like, sometimes it's just as simple as like, hey, do you want to grab coffee? Do you want to talk about it? Whatever works for you, right? And you could tell I'm a foodie at this point. I was like, who doesn't love food? That was my next topic. The reason why I brought up brunch or lunch, because food is such a natural way for people to bond, but also I suggest lunchtime because the reality is, as we grow older, at least for me, a lot of people have other priorities after work. You know, they want to go back to their family, I just want to be alone in my blanket. Like, I need my alone time. So to commit to go after dinner, after work, it's not impossible. It's just a little harder. I just want to create this, it's an opportunity to just, you know, you're just expanding your lunchtime. I think it's fine. Everyone can afford it. So that's why I suggest lunch. But bonus, if you can expense it, that would be great. You just talk to your manager. Worst things, they'll just say no, but you know, try. And if you can cater, you don't have to. It's up to you. You can go to a restaurant. I'm not saying it's not a bad idea, not at all. But what I noticed is like restaurant, you cannot control the noise environment, the table setting, things like this. So again, don't sweat too much. Do what you can. But what I noticed, catering and lunchtime works best, at least in my situation. Then buy-in from leadership and allies. What I mean is, can leadership maybe provide budget or resources for mentorship program, to training, to maybe have an expert to talk about allyship to your male colleagues in leadership? How do we promote more women in leadership? Things like this. Now, the next tip, I have trouble, I'm not gonna lie, it's the sustainability and scalability. What I mean by this is, how do we continue this momentum after initial phase fade out? Because what I realized, like, it's fun, like the moment, like, let's go to brunch, blah, blah, but then you kind of forget. I think it's natural because work gets busy and whatnot. And every now and then I hear people a few weeks later, hey, Sophie, we should do this again. I'm like, okay. But in my head, I'm like, why don't you do it? But then I kind of reflected and say like, yeah, we should do it again. Do you want to do it? I can help to support you. The idea is like I want others to do it themselves too. Like they don't have to wait until I do it or the initial person. You don't have to wait until the extroverted person to do it either. I'm not extroverted, by the way. I just happen to be a little hyper today. But anyways. So it's about fostering engagement and psychological safety. What I mean by this is because say that you're very lucky and you have a very diverse group at your work, the thing is, I hope not everyone expect that everyone will just open up. It takes a while for people to open up. People are maybe naturally shy maybe they've been burned before when they open up. You just want to create a safe space, let them open up when they want to, and if they don't want to, that's fine too. It's just so that everyone knows that they have someone to talk to, if anything. So it's really, it's all about just create a safe space as best as you can. And if you're a manager or a C-suite, hello. My general thought is if you can set the budget early for diversity programs to sponsoring events like this, that will be probably ideal. I know in this very challenging, I'm going to use the word special in quotes, political time, it's even more important. But if budget isn't the case, like, let's try something else. Let's talk about it. Please say it like we want to do something about it, and we'll start a discussion. So my slides are not great. Okay, but some final thoughts. So first thing, why am I here today? Number one, I want to get out of my comfort zone. I don't like public speaking, but I want to do it just to get more practice, get it out there. Number two, thank you. It's my way of giving back. I know this event through many years ago, and it's always empowering. I want to give back, and that's one way for me to do it. But number three, I will start with a quote. It takes but one person, one moment, one conviction to start a ripple of change. What I hope today, if anything, from my talk is something that happened to me in 2017. The old colleagues started a ripple effect, not only to me, but multiple people. And it just motivates me, encouraged me years later to still continue the fight, lack of a better word, in my own way. I hope I can do the same for you. The idea is to don't make it so stressful on yourself, right? It's all about starting small. You see somebody that you are curious to talk to, maybe you just encounter that person at the water cooler, just like, hey, or it can be simple as, hey, how are you? To, hey, want to grab a coffee? Like, hey, we haven't catch up in so long. Do you want to have a coffee? Like, just schedule 101, whatever. The possibilities are endless. You just try something small that works genuinely for you, and I can guarantee that you will learn more about yourself, you'll learn more about your colleague, and this is where the magic happens. Look at us today. We're in this wonderful event. I think it started by something very similar. And, that's it. Thank you so much.